Welcome to the PRO EDU podcast, where Rob and Gary talk and drink with your favorite photographers. So grab yourself a cold sarsaparilla and saddle up.
Calm down, Rob Green. Jesus.
That never gets old. In this episode, we are joined with Frederick Van fucking Johnson.
It actually does get old. It's just your perception is that it doesn't.
I don't think it gets old.
It gets old quick.
No.
Frederick, you're not helpful.
It's not. I love that intro. I was like, wait a minute. That's hip hop with Sam Elliott in there, and it's all kinds of goodness in there.
It's a mishmash, and then we have Tomas coming in with his "Calm down, Rob Grimm."
Yeah.
No, good job.
You can just program these buttons to do anything, you know?
That's
cool.
cool.
What is that thing? What is that thing on the desk there?
Really, this is what's making this whole set possible. So before, Rob and I were always trying to do in-person interviews for podcasts, just for the intimacy effect. We never really could come up with a way to affordably, I mean, obviously this has been an option for a long time, but affordably make something that, you know, you're on the TV, we can have really good audio, a really simple setup, we can take it anywhere. But it's the Rode Procaster came out.
Oh, yeah.
And
I've heard of that.
It's great for a number of reasons. So we initially got it because we didn't want to have a sound engineer essentially mixing it, and then it still had to be mixed in post. But when they came out with this, it essentially allowed us to use the Rode mics that it has like the algorithm or whatever, you know, built into it, so that the audio immediately is mixed and ready to be posted at the end of the podcast.
That is cool. So you cut out that whole editing, post-production, real-time piece.
Yeah, we don't have to have an audio engineer. Anybody can do it. Our director's doing it right now.
That's
cool.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, and it's also nice because it has USB-C, which allows us to go into the computer to then call you on Skype, and then the audio cables going out are actually going into what you can't see, which is the sling. So we are now able to get, you know, there's one person manning 3 cameras and cutting this on the sling, and he's getting the audio into an input on the Sling Studio for like the active audio channel, and then he can monitor and cut between 3 other cameras. It's great. I mean,
It's science. It's what it is. It's science.
I mean, we were sending the audio out and getting mixed and paying someone, you know, almost $800 to mix a whole season, sometimes $1,000 depending on how long it was. But now it's just completely done.
And actually, that's not expensive for an audio tech to mix it.
No, it's really not. It's really not. But
this is a lot faster.
So it actually paid for itself in the very first season.
It's kind of how the This Week in Photo podcast, not using that Rode device, but it's a similar sort of record and switch. You know, you guys hit that same roadblock of, you know what, this editing multiple cameras down and doing the multicam edit and then spending all that time in post-processing to get it done makes you not want to do more. It makes you not want to ingest more. So why not do the edit while you're doing the show? If you can master doing the edit and the performance of the show live, then you cut all that crap out at the end and everybody's happy and you have more content to produce.
So Frederick, this is not the first podcast you've been on. You've been on quite a few.
He's been on like more than a dozen.
You've been podcasting
at least a dozen.
At least a dozen. Way longer. How have you seen podcasts change since you're like the godfather of podcasts with This Week in Photo? How's it changed for you?
Now you're exposing the rings on my podcasting tree, man.
Those are good to have. Those are good.
I don't know. It's like the rings on a tub. I don't know if those are good.
Yeah, no, those are bad. Rings on a tree are good because they show, again, age and wisdom. Rings on a tub show that you're just a nasty human. You don't want those. So how long have you been doing this?
Geez. I'm scratching. I'm knocking on the decade door right now.
Wow.
So, which is a while. And how has it changed? I think one of the biggest changes has been the ease of entry into doing this stuff, right? I mean, when I first started, it was rubber bands and command line code and, you know, maybe this will work. And then no one knew what a podcast was and what's an RSS feed. And, you know, all that stuff was just sort of brand new Wild West territory. And now you don't even need to know about any of that stuff. You could podcast from your phone and it'll be superior in many ways to things that they publish on TV. So yeah, I think the biggest change is the maturity of the tools and how the barriers to entry have fallen, making it easier for a bunch of people to come in and tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, someone just literally last week, posted, "Why isn't this on Spotify?" And I was like, I think last time I checked, they didn't have that option. But then literally within maybe 5 minutes of searching podcast Spotify, I just grabbed our RSS feed, threw it on there, and it was like, it's ready. And it was on there, all the episodes, for free, like a few minutes later.
Yeah, that's the other thing is distribution, right? Because back when podcasts started, even before iTunes got into it, see, that's another ring on the tree. Before iTunes got into it and sort of owned the space and became the Google of podcasting, there was very few places to distribute your podcast, let alone syndicate it out to iTunes and Google and Spotify and on and on and on. Now that podcasting is kind of in vogue and, it's kind of cool to say you have a podcast right now, everyone, the demand has increased. So everyone's like looking, where's the podcast? Why don't you have a podcast? Kind of like websites in the 80s.
So does the fact that there are so many people that have podcasts now, does that annoy you, or is it more welcome competition? Because you were one of the OGs on this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I never, and I get that question a lot, especially in the photography niche. I don't see it as competition. I see it as, it's like Doritos competing with potato chips, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a taste for Doritos, you're gonna go get Doritos. Potato chips aren't gonna change your mind about having Doritos. So the more voices out there telling different stories, the more different takes on things, the more content out there. I mean, even YouTube channels with these mega star YouTubers are inspirational because there's, they show different ways of doing things, different perspectives. If I tell people on my show, if say Olympus or Nikon or Sony, whatever, they come out with a new camera, there's going to be a litany of reviews. How many people are going to go just watch one reviewer and walk away? You're going to say, oh, wow, look, there's 12 reviews. There's like 12 of my favorite YouTubers have talked about it. You're going to watch all of them and get different perspectives and then make an informed decision, right? So it's better for everyone that there's more in the pot.
Great analogy. I like it. What drew you to starting a podcast in the first place?
Oh, man, it was, I had no aspirations to start a podcast. I was a guest on This Week in Photo in the beginning, and my friend Alex Lindsay and a guy by the name of Scott Bourne were doing This Week in Photography at the time. It was a weekly audio show where, as guys sit around a table talking about photography for a few minutes, and then that was the show. There was no website. There was no social presence. There was no YouTube channel. There was nothing, right? Okay. I was working at Adobe at the time as the senior marketing manager for Lightroom and Photoshop. For the professional segment, I would come on as the Adobe guy from time to time and tap dance around questions about unreleased software.
Right.
And
only give the information you could without getting in trouble. Yeah.
Exactly. The press tap dance, say, hey, thank you, Rob. That was a great question. And then proceed to answer something completely different. But then Adobe, I don't know if you guys remember, back in the day, Adobe had their first huge round of layoffs during that .com sort of shedding. And in one day, Adobe let go 800 people. Like, I was working at the main campus downtown San Jose, and it was literally like a conveyor belt of people out processing and leaving. And I was one of them with my box with, my knickknacks and a plant in it, walking out. So while I'm licking my wounds at home and trying to figure out what my next move was, the Alex Lindsay, who was doing the This Week in Photo thing, called me up. He's like, hey, dude, you want to come on the show? And then through a series of events, I became the guy that was doing TWIP. I was hosting it, and then I just took it over completely. Then I decided to apply my marketing in Silicon Valley, the stuff that I learned there, to this and see if I couldn't make it a real sort of media property. Right. And here we are. So.
All right. So you cover a lot of new technology gear.
Yeah.
Recently, what has excited you the most?
Well, what did I just buy last night? You want
Yeah.
I just pulled the trigger after doing exactly what we were talking about, watching a bunch of YouTube videos and then scratching my head and then shaky finger on the buy button. Yeah. The DJI Ronin SC gimbal. So,
yeah.
Have you guys seen that gimbal, the
Yeah.
little handheld thing?
Actually, I just saw it this morning. There are a couple different variants of it too, right? And I didn't think it was that incredibly expensive. Actually, it wasn't.
It's not. But I'm cheap.
No. I mean, that's not what I was saying. For the amount of technology that's inside of that thing and what it's capable of doing. I thought it was pretty impressive. And for what like $570 or something. I'm like,
for the top end version.
Yeah.
And the thing that blew me away, because I was watching the videos, I'd watched YouTube videos before I'd even gone to the DJI site to see their marketing glitzy page. I'd watched a bunch of YouTubers tell me their thoughts on it. One thing that those YouTubers had glossed over was, you guys remember the Gigapan device?
Yeah.
This thing is essentially a Gigapan.
What?
So you can set it on a tripod or on its legs and tell it to do a grid of photos, and it'll stitch them together like the Osmo Pocket, but with your DSLR mirrorless camera. So I was like, okay, Gigapans were like a couple of grand. Now they've condensed it down into this gimbal that also does facial tracking and panoramas and all this, time-lapse stuff, and it's $500. So like, you almost can't not buy it as a content creator. So I bought it.
So does it only work with certain cameras to be able to stitch it together?
Yeah, it's a
weight
issue.
Yeah, it's just hardware and physics. So the DJI SC is the smaller version of the DJI S, which is a larger gimbal, which will hold things up to, they say, a Red or in that ilk of camera. And this one is designed for more your mirrorless cameras, like the Panasonic GH5. The smaller, more consumerish, but still high quality camera. So, and that's the world I play in. So it was perfect for me.
And it's actually stitching them together in software, so when it gets done panning, it's done. Do you have an image?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have it yet. So from the you go to their page, you'll see it at the bottom. From the way that they present it, it does a grid, and then I'm assuming their software will stitch it together and give you the JPEG file of the stitch. But it could be that it's just doing the grid, and you have to take those that grid of images and throw it at Photoshop and have it do it. But still,
I have the feeling you have to do it in Photoshop. For some reason, I don't know. I just don't think that they've got the software in there for it. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you know once I get it.
Yeah.
5 to 10 days for that thing to show up on my porch. So we'll see.
All right. So we're knee deep still in the megapixel war. The new Sony came out. They referenced it as if it is the replacer for medium format. I'm not exactly sure what he said.
Yeah, no, they said it. What did he say exactly?
They got in a little bit of trouble. So
they got in a lot of trouble for it because it's very.
The controversy is real good.
Right. In terms of megapixels, it's definitely in the realm of medium format, but medium format's built totally differently, and it's not an apples to apples. You're really comparing zucchini to apples, in my opinion.
So what do you think is why it's not going to be better? Because it's obviously not just megapixels, but
you got to think about the ratios, the way the cameras are built. Medium format has a very, very different look than 35 millimeter, than mirrorless. Period.
They're saying medium. Like a lot of people are just saying medium format quality. So what is that? What are people even saying there?
I think they're referring to the megapixel size. The resolution, exactly. That there's enough megapixels in there to rival. I mean, think about when medium formats were coming out in terms of digital backs. I mean, we still have two Hasselblads here. One's a 39 megapixel, one's a 60. That's now, when you're talking about 60 megapixel mirrorless 35 body, that's rivaling a mirrorless in terms of the actual quantity of pixels.
But is this one supposed to, so we're talking about the A7R4. I don't think we mentioned that. Is this supposed to, is it full frame? I saw or read vaguely that it has a different lens set to it. Is that, am I right here?
I don't know. I haven't read enough about it.
I don't know.
Maybe we should have researched this before we start talking.
Yeah, we're talking about it.
My understanding was it was the same as the previous A7 series cameras, and no lens changes, just a larger sensor. In fact, the ergonomics of the camera are almost indistinguishable from the A7 Mark whatever before it. So
Mark whatever. You're mixing Canon and Sony there.
I don't see Sony, right? But what's interesting? You bring up the megapixel thing. So who is it? Fuji.
The Fuji 100.
Yeah, they send me a loaner of that GFX 100 that I'm running around playing with. That thing, I mean, it's a beast.
Yeah.
And when I look at it and I think, what is 100 megapixels or 101
Yeah.
or whatever pixels, I
101.
look at that and I'm thinking, you know, hey, Rob, you know, you're accustomed to shooting medium format and that world of very considered photography where every little sweat drop matters and all that. Are we seeing a convergence in the world where, yeah, you can buy this sort of consumer accessible 10 grand, you know, for the GFX, but, you know, which is relatively nothing compared to what the regular medium format cameras cost. But does this mean that we're seeing a convergence where a normal non-superpower having photographer can use something and have that much headroom so that if they want to become a Rob Grimm down the line, they can move into that without changing gear?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I'm glad you actually brought up that camera because that was next on my hit list to talk about because I'm really fascinated by that. Wayne Johnson and I were talking about it a few weeks ago. He had gotten an advanced copy of it, and I want to see that camera. I actually used to shoot the old Fuji GFX systems when they were still film backs and they had bellows and they were really cool. I've always been a big fan of Fuji cameras, and I'm really interested in that. It definitely, we are seeing a convergence because mirrorless has definitely changed the way medium format's working, right? It's changed that game as well. So we have to think of mirrorless not only as affecting the 35 millimeter segment, but it's really affecting the medium format segment as well. And with the prices coming down the way they are, I think it's going to give things a real run for the money. I mean, I've told people before that I started switching and shooting with the Sony A7R II instead of my Hasselblad because I was able to move so much quicker. And my clients were demanding that we do more kind of a library of images, trying to get more done in a day. And with the Hasselblad, that's harder to do. But now the Hasselblad and now the Fuji are going to the mirrorless medium formats. Again, it's more lightweight. You're able to move a little bit quicker. But the one thing that is a little concerning about it is the amount of data that takes up. That's an enormous amount of data. What's great about what I love about these mirrorless medium format cameras is you can walk around with them and shoot anything with them. It's very much like just a big, powerful pocket camera. That's an oversimplification, but I do think of it in those terms. But now, all of a sudden, you are creating an enormous amount of data that, as a photographer, you're going to have to store, manage, edit, deal with down the line.
Drives are getting cheaper.
Drives, actually, well, yeah, that's the one thing that also is going hand in hand. Drives are getting cheaper. I mean, and so small. I have a 2 terabyte drive from G Drive that's just so tiny, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, look at this 2 terabyte drive right here.
Yeah,
little
right.
SSD action. What? Wait, what is that? What is that? It's got a hole in it. It looks like a phone case.
It's very out of focus. Pull it back a little bit.
Pull it closer to your face.
There you go. Now we can read it.
Yeah.
Why is there a hole in it so you can put it on your keychain?
It's like a carabiner.
Look at that.
That's cool.
It's just a short USB-C cable, and you could put it. It's amazing. It's I don't know, Rob. Yeah, so space-wise, those things are relatively cheap. In fact, I bought 2 of them at the same time. So, but they're cheap, and they're light, and you just throw them in your bag. But at the same time, with these giant, huge monster Hulk files, there's processor, right? So there's not only, I can store them and I can create them, there's processing those files. So now the computers need to be beefier, the software needs to be smartly written, etc. And in the end, a lot of photographers will say, well, look at all this great work that's been floating around before these giant megapixel cameras showed up. Why do I need all that stuff? So why? I mean, and it's a legit question. Why? Like, you're looking at me right now on a old Panasonic GH4 with a 12 to 35 lens on it, right? And I'm assuming the picture looks okay. Right? So,
it's the subject matter that's a little dicey, but the picture's clear as can be.
I can't help that. It's age, man. It's age.
Yeah.
All right, so how are you getting that Panasonic to show up as a video feed for Skype? Are you using additional software, or is there like a hardware?
No, I use a little dongle called a Cam Link from Elgato. That's it. It's HDMI into one end and USB out the other end. It goes into the computer. Turn on the camera. It shows up as a webcam. That's it.
Is that the only current way to do that? Do any cameras do
No,
that
there's
natively?
multiple versions. There's multiple versions and different manufacturers that make those conversion, doohickeys. But even that, like you in the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about what's changed in podcasting. You guys know it used to be like only the sages and Dr. Strange could figure out how to get video out of your good camera into your computer to use for things, right? Other than saving it and importing it. And now it's Amazon Prime away. It's like, oh, I need to plug this into that. I need that device. Boom, you plug it in. No software, no drivers. It just works. Right. And same with this thing. The Cam Link just works. You plug it in, and any HDMI source you plug into one end and plug it into your Mac, and it just shows up, just like I'm showing up here.
So it's HDMI on one end and then just USB on the other. Do they make that currently with USB-C?
No, they don't. I would show you the config here, but I have to unplug. But it's
all right.
It's old school USB 3.1 or 3. But I just bought a little short adapter off Amazon Prime that converts USB 3 into USB-C or 3.1 and plug it into the Mac, and it's good to go.
So your desktop is dongle city, isn't it?
Not really. You know why? Because great question. You see, I almost teased you for this. So I have an eGPU plugged in, a external graphics housing.
Okay.
And that external graphics housing has Ethernet on it. It has USB plugs on it. It has all this stuff. So everything's plugged into that. And the only thing I need to plug into my Mac proper is one USB-C cable. And it provides power and access to all the peripherals.
So you bought Mega Dongle. You got the Mega Dongle.
I got Mega Dongle, yeah. It's genetic, man. I can't help it.
That's the quote of the podcast right there. That was
I got
good.
Mega Dongle.
All right, so you mentioned processing power, and Apple, recently announced their new Mac Pro. What do you think about that? And specifically, what you think about that camera stand, since that's a hot topic?
What was that? How much was that camera stand? $1,000?
I've got
something ridiculous.
I've got a theory that they absolutely knew that was ridiculous, and that everyone would blog and complain about it, and they did it on purpose so everyone would blog and complain about that for free. How many millions and millions and millions of dollars of advertising did they get for nothing?
But I think it was more serious than that. It's more insidious than that, I think, having worked at Apple. I think what they did was they knew only the 0.0001% of people in Hollywood where I don't give a crap, money's no object, just put it on the invoice, buy the best of the best, right? Those people would buy it, of course, but the rest of us would say, holy crap, and they would get all this free blogging and YouTube press, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, what they did was invigorate the third-party market, where now third parties are like, oh, you don't want that $1,000 one, here's mine for $150. You can get it. So making the bigger purchase more of the stand, more of a diversion from the big price of the bigger
it's just a vest amount, right?
So you think they actually did that as a way to make the price of the computer less painful?
Yes.
By having a ridiculously priced monitor stand that a third-party company will go, I'll do a knockoff, and another third party will go, I'll do a knockoff, that it makes it more palatable to buy the big-ass computer.
Well, the big-ass monitor.
Big-ass TV. Well, the whole thing.
The monitor.
By making stupid decisions, right? Every decision you make, every comma, every exclamation point is considered and stressed over.
That's a good point, because now they can put all of those third-party products, which they get a percentage of, in the store.
In their store.
So now now the accessory game, man, they're thinking a few steps ahead.
Actually, that's interesting. Why not?
Three-dimensional chess, Rob Grimm. Three-dimensional chess, not checkers.
Why not incentivize third parties to make additional products that clip onto your products and then take a cut of it?
Yeah.
Get a bunch of them and do it.
Yeah.
Show them it's possible. Create something no one will ever buy except a few people, and the markup on that thing is probably what, 12,000% anyway.
Yeah, that's stupid. There's no way that stand costs that much to make.
It's brilliant.
Are you gonna get either the computer or the display?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I just bought a house, so so I'm
That's
thinking
cool.
like. maybe I'll swing, but I need a workstation. So I've been sort of existing on purpose on a MacBook Pro, a top spec MacBook Pro,
Sure.
which is what I'm talking to you on right now. But I wanted to do the experiment to see if I could do everything I need to do, podcasting, video editing, audio, etc., on a MacBook Pro. And that's what I've been doing for about a year now. And it's been working fine. But occasionally I do hit my head on the ceiling and want to just sort of sit back with 3 monitors and a nice, and have the whole workstation feel. So I don't need that right now, but it's on the list of things that, that Santa Claus might bring in a couple months. So we'll see.
Nice.
You ever been a PC guy?
I was way back when. Here's another tree ring. Yeah, the last PC I used was a Dell. And I don't even remember.
You got a Dell?
Yeah. I had a Dell, yeah. And I love the machine worked fine, but I never had the flow of the computer sort of, as a creative, the computer getting out of my way and letting me focus on the stuff that I wanted to do. It always felt like I was like, okay, I got to make sure this is set and this software is not behaving. I got to update that thing. And this was back then. I know Windows has matured since then, obviously, but my experience back then drove me over to the Mac side, which was like, okay, they get me. Okay, now I can do my stuff. So.
All right, so let's stay on gear. What else are you getting excited about?
Let's go back to gear because we never got to finish talking about the. No, we never got to finish talking about the megapixel issue, and he had.
Calm down, Rob Green.
I'm not
Jesus.
uncalm. Now I'm getting uncalm. Let's go back to the Fuji because you were talking about do we need that in terms
gear.
of megapixels? What? Yeah, I know.
It's technically gear.
We were specifically on that topic and then got
Then I
derailed.
derailed
I'm
it.
bringing us back. Just calm down, Gary
You're like
Martin.
the train conductor.
I am like
and I'm
the
the
train-
caboose.
You're like the derailer is what you are.
You're the drunk guy with no ticket trying to look inconspicuous.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That was funny.
I know you do.
Yeah. So what do you think of the new Fuji? What do you think of having 100 megapixels? 101.
Well, I took that thing out. In fact, by the way, I'm glad you're continuing that tangent, Rob, because I have to send it back in a couple of days.
Yeah.
You should ask them and tell them that you want to try it, and I can send it over to you, and you guys could put it through its paces.
I would love to shoot with it.
But but what I think about it is it's beautiful. It is a beautiful camera. It is robust. When I get in it, the analogy I drew was, like, my setup right now is I'm Panasonic, right? So like I said, I was shooting on a GH4 for all the online content I do for the most part. My carry around video camera, the vlogging style camera, is a GH5 with a Rode mic on the top of it. My everyday shooter is also Micro Four Thirds, which is a G9. So G9 for regular photography, videos, GH5, broadcasting and recording GH4.
Right. So
when I got that thing, I took it out, and it made me feel like, first of all, I'm testing that and the Panasonic S1 at the same time, which is full frame. So I'm looking at these cameras, and I'm thinking, boy, this feels, it doesn't make me feel bad about my current system. It makes me feel more like, it's those cameras, like the Fuji GFX 100 is like a Maybach or the super expensive car that, I could drive. It does all the same things as my, my Land Rover, but it is way out of my range and will do more than what I need and may even send the wrong message to people that see me in it, right? So that it feels like that. Whereas on the GH4 side and the Micro Four Thirds side, it feels more pedestrian, but not in a negative way. It just feels like, I'm a photographer and I'm in with the masses. Those larger megapixel count cameras, even though they're more capable in some ways than the smaller ones, when you take them out, even the Lumix S1 full frame, it's a big honking.
Yeah, that's a big 35 system.
Thor's hammer.
Yeah,
it's Thor's hammer. So it feels like you're unapologetically a photographer when you go out with that thing. With Micro Four Thirds, it's kind of like you're undercover. You could be a tourist. You could be a photographer. With those cameras, you are unapologetic. It's the Hummer with spinners on of photography.
But
what happened to spinners?
There's the converse that's happening too, though, because the medium format mirrorless is much more scaled down than a typical medium format. So The Hasselblad mirrorless is so different than an H6. You know, the Hasselblad is much bigger camera, far more conspicuous and like really in your face. So in that sense, you have, I think, a lower visibility with those types of mirrorless medium format cameras. But I wonder exactly who's going to be using them, because I think that I know my clients would appreciate those bigger files. I know my workflow is going to totally increase, particularly when, you know, I'm shooting a booze campaign or something, and I'm shooting several hundred images to composite one file. Yeah. It's going to get big. But I've done billboards on a 39 or a 60 megapixel camera, right? So the people that tend to need the most amount of megapixels are museums, because they're doing archival work, they're doing preservation work, so that you want as much data as you can. And certainly there are thousands of museums all over the world that can be customers for these companies. But my biggest question is how many pro photographers are going to keep fighting the pixel war, you know? That's my biggest question.
Yeah, I don't know. We've been fighting that on Twitter for a while. It's not the pixel war, but more of the gear war, right? Yeah. Of, you know, cameras have gotten to a point now where it's hard to make a bad decision on a camera purchase. And in fact, I mean, if you don't buy a camera, your phone is pretty damn good for a lot of stuff, right? So
don't say that, man. Take that back.
It's true. It is.
I know,
true.
It's crazy.
It's unfortunately it's true, and then they're not stopping. They're getting better and better every release. So, you know, it's, you know, you'll always, I think, have that contingent of gear acquisition syndrome photographers that have to have the best of the best, that rarely go out and use their gear and just sell it when the newest thing comes out, just to say that, hey, I have the newest thing and you suck because you don't. You know, there's always going to be that contingent of the market, but I think where the pendulum hopefully is swinging back more towards is, you know, and Gary, you can glom onto this. It's the art of storytelling and using whatever the hell gear that you have at your availability to tell stories, and away from that, the pixel peeping megapixel war. Which did you get the new Peak Design tripod? If you didn't, you suck, you know, all that stuff, and into the guy that's making incredible stories with his phone or with a cheap camera that grandpa left him or something like that. I think that's where hopefully things are kind of swinging back towards.
Definitely. When you read the specs on all the cameras, what are they pushing? Video.
Yeah.
All the new cameras are pushing their video specs as well as the still specs, because they want that, you know, they know that every photographer in this day and age has to cross over. You have to be able to shoot both still and video. So I do see the pixel race continue, but I see that the video capability race is picking up across the board.
Good images are easy to find. People are making them every day. Instagram, filters, even presets in Lightroom. But a great image doesn't happen in one sitting. My name is Seth McCullough, and I'm a high-end retoucher. I was always super drawn to commercial type imagery. I do a lot of Nike work. I think as retouchers, we are so much more like painters in every way than we are like photographers. I think of images first and foremost in a very abstract way. I'm thinking workflow, I'm thinking process. Workflow is so important at this level, because if your client comes back with something and they need you to make a big change, you have to be totally poised to do that. So that's the thing I'm going to teach you, is how to look at an image, not by the content, not by the subject matter, but as a job you've got to do with the information that you have in front of you. You're going to see what I have to do on a real job, talking to the client, talking to the photographer. We break down every single individual element right up front so that we're in complete control of the entire image. We've made some really serious advancements to tools and techniques that I'm going to show you in this tutorial that you won't see anywhere else. And the same system that I use to retouch a product in a super fixed environment, I'm going to take it and apply it to a lifestyle shot where there's sky, there's background elements. You might not believe it, but you're going to know the exact system that's used for super high level commercial retouching. more important, you're going to walk away with the confidence that you actually know what high-end retouchers do. A great image results from a long process of crafting, of conversation, of collaboration. It's up to you to have a completely bulletproof process to facilitate the creation of that amazing image. My tutorial is available at rggedu.com.
So one of the big things is just, with all these new tools and all the new capabilities that we have, we've been talking about this GFX and, all this crazy stuff that storytellers have available to them. You got to learn the audio. You got to learn where to store these files. In some cases, multi-terabyte files that you need to keep around. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? And we were talking about on TWIP a long time ago, in the context of Backblaze and these different cloud services. That the problem for a lot of photographers, even the still photographers, like wedding photographers, is they're creating more data than they can pump up to the cloud. So you get stuck in this sort of eddy of not being able to get your stuff up, and you add video on top of that, and it just becomes untenable. So I don't know. Yeah.
To add to what you said earlier about storytelling, a lot of people have commented, as our tutorials have gone on through the last 5 years, of, oh, you guys must have upgraded cameras. They just look so good. We actually haven't changed cameras at all. We're still using the Mark I C100s to film everything. And then we also have the old school Sony FS5 that anytime we need any sort of like slow-mo, we'll throw that on a gimbal. But I mean, what we've really learned and what we really invest the money in is what's on camera, what's on set, pre-production, the writing of our tutorials, how we planned them, the models that we get, building unique sets for each one of them, and just really investing in lighting, investing in modifiers to make our sets look great. And a lot of people have said, like, oh, what 4K cameras are you shooting on? We've never really shot a tutorial or any of our work on a 4K camera because it just
we
the
don't
thought.
Have to.
Yeah, you just don't need to.
Although you have been pushing hard for Red for a while, man.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, for promotional stuff, I think it makes sense to make all of our tutorials when we have 5 camera angles.
Oh, that'd be a nightmare.
That would just be, we would spend so much money on storage because, while storage is getting cheaper for video, especially if you're shooting raw.
Well, we're not making feature films, and it's getting downsized
not
like
yet.
crazy.
Not yet.
It's getting downsized like crazy to be to play on a phone. So you don't need the footage coming out of a Red to then just play on a phone. You
Depends if it's a trailer,
the
color
right tools
grading.
are the right job, right?
Color grading.
I mean, you guys remember Jurassic Park? Remember what was it, Jurassic Park 1, when Jeff Goldblum said, you've been too busy trying to figure out how to do a thing you never thought about if you should. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Just because you can and you have a camera that shoots 4K, if you're going to ultimately be down-resing it to throw on YouTube and that's the final destination, and it's a talking head, does it really need to be 4K?
No, and not only that, you've exploded your workflow for your post-production. It's going to slow down, period.
Yep.
It's now 12K, right? That's the new video format that the top is shooting on, right? 12K. Aren't they saying that is the closest to what the human eye sees in resolution? I feel like they've said that for every iteration.
Of course, they've said that for every iteration.
Apparently, this one's for real this time.
That's where displays came from, right? But whose human eye, right? Aren't all of our eyes different? So,
well, of course,
whose eye? How many rods and cones are we talking about here? It's all, and your eye doesn't see everything anyway. If we're going to get into the biology of it, your brain is helping your eye interpret what it sees and fill in the blanks, right? So. I don't know. I dare anyone to take a shot that you guys do on a 4K or 6K or 8K Red camera and put it next to a 1080 shot that's lit with both of them lit perfectly and tell the difference between the two without zooming in, without looking for eyelash lint or anything like that. Just zoom in, with them just side by side. No one will be able to tell, So I don't know.
Frederick Van fucking Johnson for president.
I got an opinion on everything.
You do have an opinion.
Frederick 2020, baby. Frederick 2020.
Oh, please. Jump in the ring, man. There's only 22 candidates running right now. Why don't you jump in there? You'd be
Can
good.
you imagine? Oh God, no. I could barely turn on the TV, let alone, I was talking to someone today about politics, and we were like, yeah, this breaking news stuff, I think I figured it out. It doesn't mean this is news that's breaking. It's news that's intended to break us.
Yeah,
More breaking news.
There is a lot of breaking news these days. Good grief. It's crazy.
Yeah. It is nuts.
All right, we got to stay away from politics because I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole here soon.
Rob got us a negative review on politics the other day.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, someone I don't know. Let's just not talk politics. It's not a political show.
I haven't talked politics, so how can I give us a negative review? He's making this up again.
Do Boris and Brexit count as politics? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. How did they elect an orange buffoon as well?
Oh God.
0.1% of their.
You did it. Now we're gonna have more negative reviews.
Good. Let's talk about that.
We're not going there.
Buffoon.
We're not going there. We love everyone. Well, like what Dave Chappelle, was it Dave Chappelle or, I think it's Dave Chappelle. One of the comedians said, politics is like a party with, it just happens to be that there's a DJ that you don't like playing a song that you don't like right now. They're ultimately going to switch out the DJ and they're going to be playing different music. So just stand by.
All right, Frederick, what's on your playlist? What are you listening to right now?
What? Yeah, God, that's a good one. You got me out of the left corner. I am not always current, but I think I'm hip because I just discovered a new artist to me called Billie Eilish.
Oh, yeah.
You guys heard of Billie Eilish?
I went to her concert 3 weeks ago.
Oh, what?
It's because I have a 10-year-old daughter, and that's all we listen to. I could sing you every Billie Eilish song.
Yep.
Oh my God, no! Her music is kind of emo and it's interesting, but it's the thing that interested me about her style was her music videos.
Oh yeah,
and how dark they are. They're just like dark.
You know what this means, Frederick? You have the musical taste of a 10-year-old girl. Just so you're aware of that.
Yeah,
wear that badge with honor, Frederick. Wear that badge with honor.
Bring it. Bring it. I'll be a 10-year-old girl. But that's in there. What else is in there? I listen to EDM depending on what I'm doing, and I've got a playlist called Angry, and
what you
share it with us?
EDM?
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh,
boots
right.
and pants and boots and pants.
I never would have picked him for an EDM guy. That's bizarre.
Yeah, Rob's really into Rob really loves Radiohead.
Chicago.
No, I don't.
EDM is born of house music, and I'm from Chicago, from the era when house music was created.
All right, that's where it's from.
That's cool. You're going back to your roots then. I get it. That's important.
Exactly.
You got to be true to your foundation. Know where you came from.
Is Chicago style pizza? Is Chicago style pizza really pizza?
No, I don't think so. I never liked Chicago style pizza. I like the disgusting pizza that you're not supposed to like, which is that street pizza in New York City. Those little slices that you get in
99 cent slices.
Everybody likes that. That stuff's
probably the best.
Yeah.
Told me, someone's like, that's been out for like 3 days. They just keep warming it up until like.
Oh yeah, they're not going to get rid of it. They're going to keep warming it up until they sell it. They spray it down with a little water, make it soft again, and then just let the heat lamp, do its thing.
Last year at PPE, there was about 7 or 8 of us. We were there for 4 or 5 days. I only had one meal that wasn't pizza. By the end of the second day, it was just kind of funny, and then we kept it going.
No,
and for every single meal, we had just pizza.
There was a stack of pizza boxes from the counter to the ceiling.
Yeah, we actually made enough pizza boxes to stack from the counter all the way to the ceiling in this Airbnb that we got. I mean, we went to Rockies a lot.
That's what happens when you get a bunch of drunk photographers stoned late at night. They get pizza and stack the boxes to the ceiling.
Before you let anyone into that Airbnb, you have to screen them for lactose intolerance. Because it could be a very different kind of experience.
Yeah, hadn't thought about that one. Always looking on the bright side, Frederick. You're always looking on the bright side. That's funny.
All right, Frederick,
I'm a realist.
What's next with TWIP? What do you got coming out on the horizon?
Oh man, so good question. So I bought this house, specifically this particular house, because it has a space where I can hopefully build a studio that holds a small little candle to the one that you guys have there. It looks amazing. So building myself a set. I've been doing TWIP using green screen and all this other stuff, which looked great. It worked for the most part, but I wanted a physical sort of space to do the show out of. The other shift is into, ironically, we've been talking about this whole episode, is to gear, doing more gear reviews and talking more about that aspect of it in short, concise. TWIP can be like an hour long, an hour plus long, which, you know, not a whole lot of people have time for that. But what we're doing is I'm condensing it down into short little 10, 15 minute snippets of reviews. And then we'll be publishing those. And then we'll be leaning into the TWIP Pro community, which is thriving now. And just a ton of other stuff that's happening. So it's fun. Cool. Workshops, and hopefully I'm going to get invited to Puerto Rico again with some people that are that I know.
I don't know when we're going to go back to Puerto Rico.
We'll
You're not going back?
No, we'll go back.
I hope so. I love that place.
I'm actually going back to that hotel in 3 weeks.
You are?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm having a Peace Corps reunion. A lot of people I haven't seen since I got out of the Peace Corps.
Did you must have organized this if you're going down there.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Right. Yeah, Labor Day weekend.
That's cool.
That's cool.
I love that place.
So if you want to come down, come on down.
Well, the governor resigned yesterday, so you'll miss the protests.
Yeah, they're over.
Apparently
it was a calm day. And
you know what's really funny that I laughed at for a long time this morning? Captain America, if you look at him and then you compare the Puerto Rican flag right next to it,
identical.
It's identical.
Yeah.
So he's actually Captain Puerto Rico.
Oh, nice.
Because it's the exact same outfit.
I never thought of him as Captain Puerto Rico.
I had neither.
It is identical.
Right in front of your face the whole time. And
damn.
Just gold.
Hey, it's Marvel. It could be a different timeline. Who knows?
I'm telling you. I love Puerto Rico. I think I could pack up.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'd live down there in a heartbeat.
No doubt.
All right, so Frederick, you're going to have to come out here soon. We should keep doing this because we can have multiple people. You know, if we set up like a Facebook Messenger group and we can all do a video chat, I mean, we could get 4 or 5 people up on the screen. Now we're CNN, Rob. Now we're CNN.
Make it a big virtual party. Let's do it.
We're GNN.
GNN?
The Good News Network.
Good News Network. All right.
Frederick, where can people go if they don't already know?
Oh, who doesn't know where to find Frederick?
All roads lead to thisweekinphoto.com. They can reach me there.
And all across the social board. Yeah?
Yep. At This Week in Photo, thisweekinphoto.com. Search for This Week in Photo on Google. You'll see
how many have you done?
Episode 580, I believe, right now.
Wow.
Of the shows. Yeah. So we're out there.
Do you have some that you just have no recollection of ever happening? You're just like, I don't remember that at all.
Probably 400 of them.
About 560. Yeah. Dude, I'm like, wow, I interviewed that guy. Wow.
Touche.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
No, it's good. I love it. You know, but we're just much like you guys. I'm always looking for ways to increase the quality of the show. What can I do that's better? You know, like doing a physical set, making the lighting better, making the audio better. Those sorts of. TWIP is like a bonsai tree that I'm always like snipping little leaves off, trying to make it better. So which will never end. It's a never bonsai.
You should hire Sean to build you a set, and I'll come out and light it for you.
I'll come out and supervise the whole thing.
There you go.
While drinking.
I have the room set up. It's ready to go. All I need is stuff in it. It's empty right now.
All right.
It just needs some creativity.
All right.
Needs 3 dudes in it. That's what it needs.
No, seriously, come see us. And when you hit Chicago, just come down. Plan it out.
Done.
Right.
Done.
All right.
Challenge accepted.
If you're just listening to this is also a video podcast you can watch on the YouTube. So check it out if you're just listening in the car on the way to work or back from work.
Hit one of those buttons.
Which one? That one?
Calm down, Rob Green.
No, not that
Jesus.
No, not that one. What about this one?
Daddy likes.
Not that one?
Nope.
No. All right. Maybe this one.
Yep.
Pro EDU is now unlimited. Get access to every single tutorial. Sign up at proedu.com today. I don't know about you, I'll take comfort in that. This podcast is officially over. See you next time. Never stop learning.
Never stop, Rob.
Never stop. What are we showing when that is playing? Are we seeing us? Or are we putting up a title card that says something? What are we doing? Is Sean even paying attention? I'm literally directing this question towards him, and I know he can hear me.
He's 3 seconds behind us.
Okay.
Takes a minute.
I think it takes a special eye to see spatial relationships in a building, and I think that architecture photographers share that with architects. I think the story that we need to tell is twofold. One is that original vision of the architect. The second part of that is really how it feels when you're standing inside of that space. So this tutorial really does contain everything. Not only do we have pre-pro and a scout, we could back up and do a 35. We got to move this probably. But we also talk about pricing, shooting, and a lot of the different challenges that you'll encounter in commercial spaces. Now both of those conference rooms are wrapped in glass, so we have some glare we're going to have to handle. Then we go through post-production, not only my process, but we bring Barry McKenzie to go through that process, which is really how I work.
I think if we made a selection around this in post, all the way around that, dropped in an office view, at least have it.
Okay, let's do it. I have someone take my images 80 to 90%, and then I put that last finishing special sauce on them before I deliver them to a client. First deliverable image. I think it looks good. Client should be stoked with that. The space we chose for this tutorial is a space that I think a lot of architecture photographers are going to be able to relate to. There's a lot of breakout spaces and bold colors and glass, windows, natural daylight. We have a lot of glare down there. We're going to have to close the blind. Polished concrete floors. These are all design elements that I've been seeing over the last couple years on a repetitive basis. Concrete is picking up all kinds of reflections and glare. I felt comfortable that this space would present enough challenges and enough commonality in the types of spaces that people would find when they got out there and started photographing spaces. The problem with this is that those bold colors are contaminating those white walls, which means we're going to have to do some post work to get rid of that color cast. The other thing is pricing, and that is something that you just can't find anywhere. I'm going to break it down here in the tutorial, teach you exactly how cost sharing works so that you can go out, implement it to your business practices, and build your client base as well. Emotion and storytelling really are what commercial architecture photography is all about. It's our job as photographers to translate the emotion of a space into a two-dimensional image. If you can invoke emotion in an architect, that really is what will set you apart from the competition. Make images that architects can connect with.